Welcome to Build Stuff. BS features products and processes used in the crafting of custom motorcycles. BS also highlights builders' projects to share ideas and inspire others. Build Stuff episodes aren't scheduled, so don't forget to subscribe to Speed and Color, then turn on notifications so you don't miss any BS.
Hi there, how you doing? Welcome back to Build Stuff. So an update on some of the XS650 stuff here. Main thing I want to talk about is hairpin springs for the solo seat. We're going to talk about a couple other things too, but let me give you an update on this. I went to where did we start here? I had Tim over and we put the bungs on the seat and on the chassis, on the frame. We got those welded in. Tim does beautiful TIG work. Very, very happy with this. Much nicer job than I would be able to do. So I'm really pleased with the results there. We got the mounting points, and I'm ready to mount the springs. And what happened is I was talking to a guy, and he said, well, when you put those springs on, make sure you leave one end loose so that they'll spring. And I said, what do you mean? Well, I don't understand. And he said, well, the only way hairpins work is if you leave one end loose. Now, I don't know. That didn't feel right to me, but you know what? I thought, okay, I'm sure that what I'm doing here is going to work. I'll put it together my way and see what happens. And we'll tighten this one down. And we're snuggish at the top, so that's good. Here's the problem. With both ends of the spring tight, I'm going to tell you, you might as well weld that seat to the frame because it does not move. And I did this and I thought, okay, if you back off one side, which I can do to show you, and I'll back it off on the top just for fun. Whoops. Oh yeah. Okay. So if you back it off, you get a little bit of spring. So leaving one side loose will have an effect. And I thought, well, that's kind of crazy. So I sat down, did some Googling, looked at some forums, threads, posts that were there, and I'm seeing the same thing everywhere. Guys are saying, I'm 170 pounds, the seat doesn't move. Nobody in those threads suggested leaving the seat loose, or one side of the spring loose, which I thought was odd that nobody else had that solution for it. But I was finding, there were guys saying, I'm 260 pounds, my seat doesn't flex at all. I'm 300 pounds, I can't get this seat to move. And I was thinking, man, that can't be the way the manufacturers intended it. That triggered something in my head, and I thought, manufacturers. I'll look up installation instructions. So I looked, found installation instructions. They showed exactly what I'm doing here with the spring out the back, everything done pretty much the way I've done it. Except that they had an extra piece that went here on the bottom mount that was a pivot. So the spring attached to one end of the pivot, it pivoted on a post here, and that was their installation. And I thought, well, the pivot would do something similar to leaving the end of the spring loose. And I thought, why do we have to do that? Wasn't making any sense to me, and I remembered that there was a young, well, I assume he's a young man because he's a student of Teach. Teach is, I believe his name is Kevin Bass, B-A-A-S. You can look him up on Instagram and stuff. He does some really cool stuff in the trades program at the school that he teaches at, where the program allows students to build old school choppers. Anyway, great program. The guy's innovative. Love him. Doing great stuff. Anyway, this was a student of his, and in his post, what he mentioned was that they had to mount the springs backwards. And when I looked at the photo, indeed, he had the springs going the same way I do here, and the same way that I've seen them mounted. Everybody seems to do them this way. So I thought, why did he call that backwards? And I was working through this and I didn't pay much attention. But this came back to me. It kind of stuck in my head that he had said they did them backwards. And that got me thinking. And what I did was I came out the next morning after thinking this through overnight, and I loosened the springs off and I turned them so that they were under the seat like this. And with them under the seat, I tighten them down, both ends. And with both ends tight, guess what? Look at how those springs work. So I'm going to tell you, I'm running mine like this. I think the springs are intended to work that way. And I got thinking about the physics behind this, and I'm pretty sure I have it right in my very basic understanding of physics. If you look at the seat, if you look at the seat is hinged at the front. Being hinged at the front, when you move this seat up and down, it's moving on an arc. And I'm exaggerating probably, but it's moving on an arc. If you put this spring at the back, if you turn it 180 degrees, the spring is moving around the coil. So in fact, if you were to draw an arc of how the spring is moving, spring's moving on an arc this way. So you've got opposing arcs. And at these points, when you tighten that down totally, those arcs are locked at that point. You cannot move that spring. The only flex you're getting is either in the material of the seat or in this straight part of the spring, which is not the part you want to try and move, but you're basically trying to bend that straight part of the spring. If you leave one side loose, one end loose, well, now you're creating a flex point there, same as the pivot on the bottom. So you're allowing that spring to work, but only because the end is free to move. If you turn the springs the way I have them now, the arc of the seat and the arc of the spring, while it may not be exactly the same radius, is going in the same direction. And that's going to allow the springs to move. So for all those people who've been looking for an answer on those forums and everything else, and I hope this gets around a little bit, or if you're thinking about using hairpins and you're trying to decide what to do, this, I believe, is how they really should work, or at least with both ends tight and mounted like this, I can tell you now that this definitely works. As far as capacity, I haven't had a chance to really test this yet. This weekend I'm going to sit on here and see what it's like. I'm going to get Alfred to measure the travel in the seat while I kind of spring on it, put a load on it. We'll see what that is. If I need to, I think another solution here, if I'm not getting enough spring out of two of these, then I'm going to add a third spring in the center. And, you know, if you were a big guy, big rider, we'll open that up. If you were a big rider, I think you could, in fact, add as many springs as you had room for here. Each spring is going to give you more load, more damping, or more spring rate, whatever that is. But it's going to allow you to put a heavier load on there. Like I say, 2 I think is going to be fine. I'm going to test it this weekend. If I need to, easy enough to add a third. I've got the space and everything. Should be just fine. Yeah, I'm happy. I like the look. I kind of like that there's nothing at the back here. It kind of opened it up, and with my new fender that I'm going to show you in just a second here, with the new fender and everything, and I'm trying to maintain on this bike, we still have to get an exhaust on the A side of the bike, and on the B side here we'll have the chain, but I'm trying to keep this area as open as I can. I really want that wide open, and so far it's working out well. So this works just great. The springs work. That's what I think you need to do there. While we're on here, just to touch quickly, got the new fender. Really like the round fender with the round tank. I think the two complement each other really nicely. And again, because I'm talking about keeping this area very open, I didn't want to tie the front of the fender into one of the cross braces. So the mounting system I was working on here last night, and I'll do some more work on it. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a plug in this side. What I'm trying to do here, and I got to measure it up and stuff, but I'd really like to mount the turn signal off of this support. So I'm going to make a support for the fender on both sides. Be really easy to make them identical so we know we get the fender centered. That'll all be good. The mounts will be, the fender will be mounted at this point and with the sissy bar, which I think is going to be lots to hold it firm. This will be short enough. I don't need to worry about this getting into the wheel. The tail here, same thing. It should be fine. As far as the wheel, I'm just trying to make sure that I have enough travel in the adjustment of the back wheel, that I don't get myself in trouble there anywhere. That should be really good. So very happy with the fender, trying to do minimal mounting points on it. Got some ideas here. And like I say, if I can mount the turn signals off of this same point, I think that's going to be a really clean sort of look. My idea is to hide the wiring inside this mount, bring it into the fender, and from the fender, bring it over to the sissy bar, down one side of the sissy bar, and then down the underside of the lower frame rail, so it'll be really hidden. I don't think I'm going to try and run it through the frame rail. I might, but doing that is always a little bit tough. But for sure, we'll tuck it down low and hide it real nice there. The other thing, I'll grab a couple pictures of this. The other thing I've done is with the gas tank, I always like to have a flat mount on the gas tank. I don't like this rounded piece being on the backbone and the chance of it moving side to side, and I know there's leather washers, all that stuff. But seeing how we've put a bung, a top hat bung, into the frame, we have a nice flat surface. Now, a lot of guys, what they'll do is they'll grind off the edges so that it becomes round to match this tab on the tank. I didn't really want to do that, so what I've done is I've left the top hat flat at the top. I haven't ground it. This, what do they call these? Counterbore bungs. These counterbore bungs accept a socket head screw. So the socket head drops down in here. I've got some really nice chrome socket heads in stock here that would look really good sitting inside here. So what I've done is drilled out the mounting tab on the gas tank, dropped this in. This counterbore bung is the same outside diameter as the top hat bung. Both are flat at the bottom, so that's real nice there. If I want to protect the paint in there, I can run a nylon or a Teflon washer, or even one of those leather washers. It'll be fine. But it is flat to flat in there, and then, like I say, just drilled out this tab so it was big enough to go around that bung. Now we'll get Tim to weld these bungs in front and back, which should make it real nice. Then when you set the tank down, this is flat on flat. There's no chance of it moving side to side. And I think these will look pretty good with this part of it painted, of course, to match everything else. Then the chrome socket head in the center should look really good. So that's what I'm up to there. Tim and I are going to work on that here later today. Got my my skateboard wheel chain tensioner from TC Bros. That's kind of a cool piece going to be on there. All in all, the bike's coming together. I'm pretty happy with it. I'm excited to get more of this done, and yeah, maybe even get some primer on this frame one of these days. Got to work on the fender mounts as well. Going to measure up the sissy bar and the handlebars so I can get that off to Graham at Almost Old School so he can start working on those. We're hoping to have those done at the end of February here. I got to get over to Protospace and do some machining, axle spacers, and see what I'm going to do about these mounts for the fender. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. Remember, subscribe to Speed and Color. Turn on those notifications. You don't want to miss any of this BS. And we'll be back with more Build Stuff episodes. Thanks for watching.